Welcome, everybody. My name is Teresa Law. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for ServiceNow, and I am very excited to be here with my coworker, Anushri, and our partner, Securitybricks. If we go to the next slide, it's just a really quick safe harbor. If we are talking about any forward-looking statements, these are based on our beliefs and our assumptions. And without any further ado, I am going to turn it over to Raj from Securitybricks.
Thank you, Teresa. And thank you, ServiceNow. Appreciate the opportunity to present our CMMC accelerator. This is actually the second time we are doing this. We had talked about this, I guess, exactly a year back with kind of the same crew. So we just thought we'll do another refresh, webinar in the same topic, except, as many of you know, December 2023, towards the end of after Christmas, the DoD released the proposed final ruling. So there's been more clarity in terms of what the rules of CMMC are. There's more clarity on timelines, requirements. So we thought we'll take this opportunity to review what our accelerator does and how can it help with your journey, with your CMMC journey. I'll go through a few slides and then I'll let Anushri talk a little bit about Ben will talk a little bit about the automation, Ben from Securitybricks, and then Anushri from ServiceNow can talk a little about the product, and we'll do a little demo, and hopefully you'll find this useful. Just a quick who we are. We are a accredited 3PAO for FedRAMP. We're also an accredited C3PAO for CMMC, which means we as a company can attest you for both FedRAMP and CMMC, one among probably the 10 or 11 companies in the US who can do that. We are based here in the US. We all work within 4 time zones. We're all US citizens. We have a big impact program. We have a lot of veteran service members. We transition into cybersecurity. Actually, last quarter alone, we did 2. We've been doing this since 21. We have about 4 of them with us now. Very proud of it. We appreciate their service, and we want to give them some skills so they can extend, protecting the country like they did, like they have been doing. We focus on cloud security and compliance, very hyper focused on it. Our journey with ServiceNow has been, since pre-COVID or maybe during COVID. We actually are a vendor of ServiceNow. We've been working with Anushri and the product team on a number of features and designing more from a compliance security perspective. And Anushri will talk through some of the work we have done together. And then we are also partners. So we have launched some accelerators. We have helped with some implementations. And our whole focus here is ensuring that we are able to, automate some of these requirements and try to see how we can take out of the box features and try to help customers use it for various use cases. So that's kind of how we work with. So with going next, I just thought we'll recap a little bit on the various terms. I'm sure many of you have attended other CMMC webinars, but I thought it'll be useful just to kind of level set up when we use the term CUI, FCI. So these are important because the entire CMMC is on the premise of protecting unclassified control information, right? So it's CUI. So anything that you have to be safeguarded from a CUI perspective, CMMC plays a role. FCI is something that is not intended to public release. And then 800.171 is the framework that is used for protecting or the controls that are requirements that are needed to protect CUI. And then C3PAO. This is from CyberAB. There's a typo there, but this is from CyberAB, essentially going through organizations that want to audit and who want to validate, contractors that have implemented these requirements. So you'll see some of these terms used as we go, and we thought we'll just do that as a starting point. Nothing since it's been a few years, I guess, about 3-4 years or even longer since since DoD said they want to have a new framework or a new requirement, which is a CMMC. And as there's been conversations, they start off at level 5 levels, they came down to 3 levels. There's been a lot of back and forth. Today, a number of almost all the contractors follow the DFARS, which is essentially from 2017, where you have to self-assess against the 800-171 framework. You enter your score. CMMC kind of extends that, right? They want to now validate that the controls you say you have are actually in place, and so there's a few things that they wanted to extend in this program. From again, it's all about protecting CUI information. So it's I guess a lot of even us, when we went through our C3PAO last year, we were unsure as to when this will actually come to fruition, and it took time. But I think in December, finally, the DoD came out and said, here's our proposed ruling. We're going to have 3 levels of. We're going to divide these contractors. There are about 200,000 plus contractors who work directly or indirectly with the DoD. And the idea is they'll divide them into 3 entities: level 1, level 2, level 3. They're going to use the 800-171 framework, but then they're going to have, the level 1, which is a majority of them just do a self-assessment. Level 2, where you can either do a self-assessment or you'll go through a C3PAO. And then, of course, the big people, which is the tier 3 level 3 ones that are directly going to be audited by the DIPCAC. So this is kind of that is, I guess, in the proposed ruling. The currently, a lot of people have asked, when will it come? When do you think I should be ready? The answer that we have is, or any of us have in this industry, is that it is for sure going to come, because it's gone through. It's right now they're looking about 300 plus comments, and the DoD is reviewing them. There has been conversations and talks about coming out sometime in fall of this year. And irrespective of when it comes, in the rule they have defined as to, and then we'll walk through as to how they're going to implement it. So I think it's time for people to, take this seriously and start to work through and see which levels they go through. A little bit about the ecosystem. I just touched on it, but I wanted to kind of talk through this because this is very important for a lot of people. They've asked, where are the friction points? What are the things that we need to look for? So there are about 200,000, suppliers, as I said, overall, right? The numbers are varying. About 80,000 of them are level 2s. I would say majority of them, 100 plus, are going to be level 1s, and then maybe a few thousand are going to be level 3s, which is the big direct contractors that hold big prime contractors that hold majority of the contracts. So the middle portion, which is the level 1s, they can do the self-assessment. The middle portion is where you are going to have people to do, these level 2 assessment that includes validation of 110 controls from 800-171. About 5% is what it says that they could be eligible to do self-assessment. That's based on the discretion of the DoD and the agency. And majority of them will have to go through a auditor, a C3PAO such as us. There are about 52 of us today that are in this pipe that need to audit at some point all these. And so it is a formal audit like you would do any compliance framework. And you'll then submit your score through the SPRS system, just like the contractors do today. So all this data just comes from what the ruling looks like, what some of the how the ecosystem looks. This is very interesting because this rule not only applies to contractors who are directly working with DoD, but also a number of subcontractors. We have seen a number of subcontractors that work with the prime and they do work. So this is more of that contractual flow down. And that's a very interesting part, because when we designed our CMMC accelerators, we have just to recap, we do have other accelerators on the store. We have a FedRAMP accelerator. We're working on a SOC 2 accelerator that's going to come out shortly, and another PCI accelerator. When we looked at CMMC accelerator, we looked at in 2 lenses. One is the assessment that a contractor has to do, and how can ServiceNow help them automate, but also using the ServiceNow vendor risk module, how can they now validate that their subcontractors are compliant to CMMC levels. So we took both the approaches because a lot of, in this industry, like many industries, there's a lot of work that flows down to subcontractors. And the prime contractor is contractually obligated to make sure that the other levels below them are compliant to CMMC. So this kind of becomes a chain. And so in this case, many of the contractors are not just, it applies to everybody in the ecosystem. This is the timeline. This is what came out. So if anyone wants to go out and check out the document that was put out there from DoD on December 26th, this is critical. So the timeline essentially shows, whenever it could be October of this year, it could be September, it could be January of next year, it doesn't matter. Whenever they come out with the rule, first 6 months is going to essentially be where they're going to have people to start looking at some of these assessments, which category, which levels they fall in, and they're going to get them to start looking at CMMC and submitting some of these. Next 7 to 12 months, they're going to go through, people have to go through certification assessments, and so you can see most of these. Now, the difference here is that there is the ability, let's say that one of the contractors don't pass certain controls. There are 5 or 6 controls that if you fail, there is no, you cannot be certified, period. But there are few, but there are other rest of the controls that they don't see as critical. And it's, I wouldn't say it's not critical, but some of them where you can have something called a POAM, which is the plan of action and milestone. You can, when you do an audit and you say you failed a certain control, if it's allowed, you can write a POAM, which will then allow you to fix that in 180 days, and then another C3PAO coming and validating it. So that gives you the transitional period where you can have the CMMC assessment. We actually are already seeing many contractors just since the beginning of the year looking at this seriously, because if they have a contract that's coming up for renewal in 25, or they're bidding a contract for a big contract in 25, they all have language of CMMC in there. So they are seeing it already, right? They're saying, hey, when this is awarded, we're going to have some CMMC requirements. So people are already, who are preparing for those contracts, are already saying, okay, I can't wait, so we need to get going. So this is, the timeline that was proposed from, it's out there from DoD, and they don't give a specific date, but they tell you what their plan of implementation timeline looks like. So this slide essentially talks about, how DoD is looking at this, things like safeguarding defense information, flow down of subcontractors, things you already know. But there's another interesting angle here that I think is a lot of people have asked for clarity, which is what happens if, many of the small to mid-size and, almost everybody uses a third party. They use either a cloud service provider, maybe a Microsoft or a AWS, or they use managed service providers, people who provide them, certain support. Maybe they manage certain infrastructure, and especially it's very common with the small ones. And they came out and said, if you're a cloud service provider and you are, providing, you're part of the CMMC boundary, you're part of the scope, then they can be FedRAMP moderate approved or certified. And if they are, then they can be part of that boundary. They can be part of the ecosystem. So if a CSP, which is a cloud service provider, handles CUI data, and they have to be in the boundary of this DoD contractor. If they are a FedRAMP accredited entity, or they're in the marketplace, or they're ready, they can be part of it. Now, DoD accepts that. But if you are another MSP, if you are another provider, don't have if you don't have a FedRAMP accreditation, you're not, you cannot, then you have to become CMMC certified yourself. So a lot of MSPs today who are serving this contract base are now taking a look and saying if CMMC applies to them, because one, do they handle the CUI data? Because when the package or when the assessment is done on behalf of that contractor, they need to, include the compliance of that external service provider. So it's another one. So the ecosystem now grows, not just these contractors, but the people who are serving these contractors. So think about all the managed service providers, external service providers, storage providers, any of that. So it kind of increases that, and they also have to go through CMMC level 1, level 2, whichever, and those are all defined in the proposed rules that are out there, but something for people to think about, and becomes very critical. So at this point, I'll give it Ben, who heads our compliance and service now at Securitybricks, to take over and kind of talk through how we approach the automation, what are the problem statements, and kind of talk through some of the features of our accelerator. Ben?
We actually have a question before Ben starts in the chat. Make sure you put your questions in the Q&A panel, although I will be scanning the chat in case you put them in there. So we have a question here that says, I've heard there is a title of provisional assessor, provisional assessor. Well, an assessor is going for full certification. Is that an actual assessor level?
Are they talking about the joint surveillance, the joint voluntary surveillance assessment, or
possibly?
Okay. Sorry, I can explain that. So currently, we ourselves have a few DoD contractors in something known as JSVA. So the DIPCAC, which is the Defense Industrial Base Agency that's part of DoD, has essentially told contractors that if you are ready and you would like to be assessed on the same CMMC, say level 2 assessment, we can, we as a C3PAO can put your name in there, and if the DIPCAC chooses you as a candidate, we'll do an assessment. The DIPCAC, validates the results, and if you do pass that, irrespective of when CMMC comes, for the next 3 years, you are good to go. You're compliant to CMMC. So that's I wouldn't say it's provisional right now. That is the alternate till the actual timelines come out, but that's very much feasible. We have seen a spike of them in the past 1 month, where contractors want to go through that JSVA assessment, the Joint Surveillance Assessment. Yes, if that's what you're referring to, because there is nothing provisional at this point. No one really can, unless you go through JSVA or wait for CMMC, there is no provisional assessment as far as we are aware of.
Yep, that was it. Thank you. Okay. We haven't got more. We actually do have one more question before we start. If a company only deals with PII or PHI data, will that company be a candidate for level 2 self-assessment, or will it depend on the language in the contract proposal?
Great question. It'll depend on the language and the whatever is in contractually, because it also depends on if they're working directly with the prime or they're working with the DoD. They determine which levels they have to go through, and they will let them know, because it depends on a lot of factors. So it is not always that I'm level 2 or level 1. What we have heard is, again, majority of the contractors are asking that they're going to the higher level of level 2, unless they're very small and they don't. Majority of the people who are touching CUI are automatically looking at level 2 only because they think that futuristic business may warrant them to go there, and or they just want to take the highest level of compliance that they think they could be, so that even if it's not needed, they have done a better job. So it all depends on the entity that's going to require you to get certified.
Fantastic. There are no more questions at this time. So Ben, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Teresa. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Rupa. Thanks, Raj. So before we get too far into CMMC and the accelerator that we have built, I want to take this chance to talk a little bit about the NIST 871. I mean, after all, the 871 serves as the bedrock for CMMC certifications, particularly in securing your CUI data. Now, it consists of 110 controls that are divided into 15 control families. And these 110 controls provides really a structural approach for organizations to equip to effectively identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover from cyber threats. Raj, go ahead and jump over to the next slide, please. Okay, this slide is probably a little eyeful. There's a lot of little numbers in there. But I just want you guys to kind of focus on the colors of the light blue and the orange. These are really the two main areas, technical configurations and administrative control. The administrative control encompasses the crucial aspect like incident response plan, policy, vulnerability management procedures, awareness, and training initiative. And on the other hand, you have the technical controls that are zooming on very specific security configurations, such as your encryption settings for data in transit at rest, firewall ACLs for managing inbound, outbound traffic, password parameters, log settings, role-based access configurations. So these are the two. Now, if you look at the 15 control families, it doesn't seem particularly groundbreaking in compared to other regulatory framework that you work with, like PCI, HIPAA, HITRUST, and NIST, right? But achieving CMMC certifications really entails a significant amount of effort in documentations in how your organizations meet these control requirements. And then we'll dive a little deeper in the next slide. Raj, go ahead and jump to the next slide, please. Okay. I know we are to the half-hour mark, but I do want to spend a little bit of time on this one here. As far as challenges go, I mean, there's certainly a lot of challenges. But here are 4 that we selected to want to talk to you about especially. Now, as far as transition timeline, it typically takes around 9 to 24 months for this to take place. But from our experience, most organizations out there, don't recognize and allocate sufficient time and resources. So to get there, to become an ATO or get it CMMC certified, right? The journey really begins with setting a very clear allocations of your organizational boundaries and a comprehensive list of assets that are within scope. This includes systems, applications, third-party vendors, processes that interact with your CUI data. Now, I don't know if there's any assessor in the call here, but for those who are, could probably attest to the fact that oftentimes when we come into an assessment, we realize the boundaries are not correctly set and the list of assets that should have been included are completely left out. So now, assuming that you got all that right and you move on to the next stage, which is to start assessing the control, right? You got your boundaries, you got your assets clearly defined and is absolutely accurate. Each control then needs to be, or the control evidence needs to be carefully scrutinized with a detailed explanations in the SSP and how the intent of the requirements is met, right? Completing the SSP, often results in a pretty hefty effort. From what we normally see, it ended up around 300 to 400 pages documentations, pulling information from various areas within the organizations. And to make that even a little bit more complicated is the time the evidence are useful. So assuming that you're preparing all of these and you started this process 6 months ago, but by the time the assessment actually takes place, any evidence that are beyond the 30 days time period are invalid. And so therefore you got to go back and recollect all of this evidence again. Because at the end of the day, the assessor is gonna use your SSP as a guidance to validate your compliance against CMMC. And then there's another challenge again in regards to the Pullman waiver. Obtaining a waiver is are very limited. And assuming that your assessments, where issues were identified, some were quickly resolved because it's perhaps the documentations and, you can go and get that updated very quickly. But others, may result in a poem, right? And given what we know today, we really highly recommend that you target, achieving a high level of compliance to really minimize the reliance on a poem. And most of our clients today that we are working with, they're still doing the very old-fashioned way, which is, very manual. They do their security risk or compliance assessments. They're setting up interviews with the SME individually and collecting evidence and storing it into a compliance folder. This manual process is extremely labor intensive. And not only that, it's really prone to inaccuracy and incompleteness as well. So another challenge is from the manual process is that the evidence that are collected, often lacks in a clarity in terms of what evidence are actually required. So this is where, and I'll talk a little bit more about later in terms of, how automations are able to help streamline this whole process and ensuring that the accurate data are collected, and the data that are collected are particularly useful from a C3PAO assessor consumption. Next slide, please. Okay, so our journey with ServiceNow. So we are a ServiceNow platform and specialist partner. We started this back in 2020, and with our expertise in the fields of being an assessor, I've been an assessor for, you guys know, it's probably like around 20 years, right? And we developed a really good and clear understanding of what type of data and evidence are typically required to meet a certain type of objective, whether if it's a control objective from NIST, from ISO, from CAS, right? We've been doing this long enough that as an assessor we come in, we know exactly what we need to see. Maybe certain evidence we need timestamps on the evidence that's collected. All of those are clearly our expertise in terms of identifying the evidence that are required. So we started developing and automating indicators for CAS version 7, and then we created indicators for ISO 27001, and then later, we upgraded to 7.0 to a version 8.0 for CAS, as well as really measuring cloud security posture for AWS and Azure that were based on the CIS benchmark against PCI, ISO, NIST, and CCM as well. And to create these automated indicators, it was really fun and interesting is that we have to dig into all of the different modules within ServiceNow, right? Because based on any pieces of control objective, it's that, well, we got to have these 5 pieces of key information to satisfy this control. And where do we get those, right? So we literally dig through the whole ServiceNow offering, everything from the HR module to ITOM, ITAM, IRM, VRM, CMDB, Discovery, you name it. We dug through it. It includes the DevOps and the cycles as well. So in most cases, the basic indicators that we developed were suffice enough to meet the intended control objective. I don't know if you guys are familiar with different type of indicators out there, but essentially there are 3, right? There's manual, right? And then there's basic, and then there's scripted. Basic is where you're looking at data from a single table. And in some cases, we were able to address most of these using basic indicators, but in some cases, we had to pull lots of data from different tables. And so we had to create a scripted indicators to create that automated indicators that provides a real-time assessments reports against a set of frameworks. Slide 15, please. All right, so those are the 2 slides that I want to spend a bit more time on. Next is our approach. Our approach is really simple. Our primary principle is simplicity. We want to keep things as simple as possible. We take what's out of the box within ServiceNow, create automated evidence collections using data that are within ServiceNow. And then from our perspective as a certified C3PAO point of view, we identify the type of evidence that are required to that are required for the third-party assessor when they come in. So that's our specialties in terms of how we go about automations and our principle of simplicity. Next slide. Okay, introduction to accelerators. Raj kind of touch on this a little bit, and I'll go through it, at a high level, so we can get some time for our demo here. We have 2 accelerators that are. Let me see. I apologize. Let me just make my screen bigger. My eyesight are getting worse. So our accelerators that we have, it's readily available for download at the app stores. It contains this 871 content with the authorized documentations and control objective. It is built on the CAD modules, which Anushree will talk about it later. And then we have the other accelerators that are really focused for that runs on the vendor risk management module that allows you to, if you're a level 2 contractor, your subcontractor who interacts with your CUI data will need to be adhered to a level 2 standards as well. So this content will give you a quick head start to conduct an assessment against your subcontractors. Next slide, please. All right, the benefit accelerator. So when we were working with ServiceNow and we were creating these indicators, we said, hey, you know what? Let's create accelerator for the CMMC to get the folks out there who needs to be CMMC certified a quick head start. Now, by downloading accelerators, you get the questionnaires out of the box. You can then fire this off, using the VRM modules to streamline your whole assessments against your vendors. It will create a nice dashboard for you. It'll give you a sort of a ability to kind of track and report on compliance status against any of your vendors, and as well as being able to track issues that are identified and go through the whole remediation process within the ServiceNow VRM platform. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the CMMC accelerator that you yourself need to be certified against, right? So we have developed this content for you. It's integrated directly into the policies and compliance module. It uses the workflows that are built in and that utilize the CAM modules itself. The nice things about this is when we built this, again, was to give folks a head start. Right? You don't need to now develop the questionnaires yourself. You can download the content that we have. All three documentations are there. It provides guidance. It tells you exactly what type of evidence are required. And you can fire this off using the CAM modules. Be able to, automate your workflows, collect your evidence. And so with that, it also provides you a supplier performance risk systems based on the assessment's results. And then from there, you can, export these data into your SSP for reporting purposes, as well as track your POEM based on the issues that were identified during this assessment period. Anushi, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you, and then we'll do a demo afterwards.
Thanks, Ben. Hello, everyone. I'm Anushi, and I'm a Senior Manager of Product Management at ServiceNow. I manage our IT risk and compliance as well as internal audit products. And today I'm going to talk about the continuous authorization and monitoring product, as well as the accelerators that we've released, which will help you with the continuous monitoring. So the continuous authorization and monitoring application that was released in, I think in Quebec release a long time back, which is primarily built for the use case of NIST RMF. And we provide out-of-the-box content for NIST 853. And this application was built for customers who are working with Fed customers or even for our Fed customers. So this application will help you to go through the 7 steps of NIST RMF, starting with prepare, categorize, select, implement, assess, authorize, and monitor. What we do as part of each step is what I will quickly go through as well here. So in the prepare state or prepare part of the workflow, the key activity we perform is defining the system and mission as well as stakeholders. So you can identify your authorization boundary by gathering data from existing IT services, IT asset management, or other sources. All of this data is available in CMDB in ServiceNow. So that's the benefit. You can define your stakeholders and you can come up with a risk strategy. In the categorize phase or categorize state, the key activity is to determine the criticality of the system by analyzing the impact of loss. So we provide pre-built information types which can be leveraged for impact assessment. And this determines which baseline controls to bring into the system. The select state is where you can basically select the initial set of controls for the system and tailor these controls as needed to reduce risk. So you can perform your control tailoring by determining what controls are applicable, not applicable, if you can inherit some common controls as well. So this is what you would do as part of this particular state. Then when it comes to select the key activities in this particular stage of NIST RMF, you can select initial set of controls. Once you tailor the controls in the implement state, you can implement these controls that you've selected before. So you can go ahead and implement the controls has its own life cycle. The benefit of the continuous authorization app that we built here, we built it on top of our GRC application, which includes a policy compliance, risk, audit. So you can leverage all of it in this app. So you can basically implement your control. You can go through the control lifecycle and test your control as well. So in the implement state, you're actually implementing the controls as you selected in the previous state. And then in the assess state is where you actually determine if the controls are implemented correctly. So you can assess your control using our audit engagement, using the control testing feature. And when the control fails, it generates the poems automatically. So you can monitor those poems in a central repository as well. Then finally, in the authorized state, the key activity that you would perform is authorize a system or common controls based on the determination that the risk is acceptable. You can generate SSP report, you can pull in the change requests, incidents, vulnerabilities, and view the summary of these activities. You can pull all of this information because that's available in ServiceNow platform. That's the power of ServiceNow platform, and that's how you would go ahead and monitor and authorize the system. And finally, in the monitor state, the key activity, of course, is to monitor the system and the associated controls on ongoing basis. So these are the 7 steps that we have, and the workflow will go through all of these steps. And as Ben explained before, they've also used the CAM app for their accelerator that they have in the store. So this can be expanded beyond NIST 853 and can be leveraged for continuous authorization and monitoring. All right. So can we go to the next slide? So here I'm going to talk about the accelerators that we have released in the store. This will help you with continuous monitoring of the controls. And Ben touched upon it briefly before. So Raj and Ben helped us with this accelerator and the content, and we built it and released on the store. So in this particular accelerator, we released a technology controls accelerator as well as cybersecurity controls monitoring accelerator. These 2 accelerator provides you content for monitoring your CIS 8 controls, your CIS 7.1 controls, ISO control, as well as CSA CCM 4.0. What we provide as part of this accelerator is we provide content for CIS 8 and CSA CCM. So you would have authority documents, you will have citations, you'll have a bunch of control objectives for these 2 regulations or standards. And then as additionally, we also provided some automated indicators. We have around 67 automated indicator templates to monitor the CIS 8 controls and also monitor the common controls such as CSA CCM coming from CSA CCM, NIST 853, NIST CSF, ISO 27001 and 2, and PCI DSS. So you can use same indicator template to not only monitor CIS 8, but also monitor the common controls that map to CIS 8. Can you go to the next slide? All right. So here is the example of what we are doing here in this accelerator. We have out-of-the-box content for CIS 8, as I explained. So we have around 171 control objectives, and we are shipping 67 automated indicator templates. These automated indicator templates can be used to monitor 54 out of 171 controls from CIS 8. And these will be basically, there's also mapped to common controls. Actually, the indicator templates basically map to all the 171 controls from CIS 8, and you can monitor all of them. 54 out of those indicator templates can also be used to monitor common controls from NIST, from CSA, from CCM, PCI, ISO, NIST, CSF, etc. Then we have around 197 control objectives coming from CSA, CCM, and we have 41 indicator templates that could monitor these CSA, CCM control objectives. Now, the unique value proposition we have here is these indicator templates basically fetch the evidence data from various applications or products from ServiceNow, such as SecOps, ITAM, ITOM, third-party risk, and HRSD. So you can see the number of indicator templates that monitor number of controls from SecOps. There are about 30 controls that fetch data from SecOps products such as vulnerability response, security incident, configuration compliance product. We have 5 indicator templates fetching data from our third-party risk management application. 17 indicator templates fetch evidence from ITOM products. 5 of them fetch evidence from ITAM, and 10 of them fetch evidence from HRSD. And you can expand it further to also basically fetch information if you're not using a certain product from ServiceNow. If you have custom tables, you can leverage this accelerator. This will give you head start, so you can define your own indicator templates as well. There are a couple of examples here of what kind of indicator templates we are shipping as part of this accelerator. So one of the indicator templates, which is performing your regular automated port scan, will actually check if the Qualys is active and it's performing the scans on a regular basis. This is the integration that a vulnerability response product provides. So we will fetch that information to provide you evidence. Another example I would like to take is from the software asset management. So you can identify or determine if there are any unapproved softwares that are unauthorized. So it'll actually check if there are any unapproved or unauthorized softwares in the system, and it'll fetch that data and give you evidence, fail the indicator templates, and create issues automatically. So this particular accelerator really helps you with continuously monitoring your controls. These are the controls which also includes our cloud controls. So we do have integration with config compliance. You can monitor your cloud controls if there are any misconfigurations. So you can do a lot here. So this is just a quick brief update about the accelerators. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Ben again to demo their accelerator on CMMC.
So for CMMC accelerator, for the CMMC NIST SB 171 framework, we have this CMMC accelerator on ServiceNow Store. So once we download the application, we're gonna be having the content in it, and the content resides in policy and compliance module. So for example, in authority document, we have authority document for CMMC baseline security. And so this authority document has 110 citations that are mapped to each control. Like each citation is mapped to each control, one control. And the control objective is mapped to a attestation, that is a set of questions that are going to be asked to the stakeholder to assess them. For example, if you go into this assess citation, it's mapped to this control, SCL23.13.9. So this is the attestation right here. If I can just go into this and show you how it looks. Yep, so here we go. So this is a part of the control objective, and each control objective is going to have a set of questions related to it. And if they can answer it as implemented and not implemented, and give a reason and describe implementation for that control. As we are using CAM module, CAM application to run our 80171 assessments. So let's go to the authorization package that's a part of CAM application. I have created one authorization package already for demo purposes. We're just gonna go into it and look how it works. So as Anushree explained, prepare state is we define the boundaries, we give it a name, and categorize. We categorize this authorization package on the basis of impact level. It can be low impact, high impact, or moderate. For this purpose, I assume it's moderate. Yep, it's moderate. And once we categorize the authorization package on the impact level, we're going to go into select state, where we are supposed to tailor the baseline controls. So in this case, for CMMC accelerator, we have added our own CMMC control objectives in it. So once we are done adding 110 control objectives from NIST SP 80171, we are just going to move to the implement state. But before that, we have to approve this request so it can move to the next state. All right, so now it's an implement state, and these baseline controls from NIST SP 80171 creates 110 controls, one for each baseline control objective. Or here we can send all these control objectives into a test state, so the stakeholder can receive all these assessments and they can answer them as required or whatever they have the evidence for. Let's send it into a test. So once they're assessed, once they create assessments for the stakeholders, as of now, this system is in a process of creating attestations. It's done. It says attestations created. So these all attestations are sent to the stakeholder. For example, it's to the owner, Ahmed Bilal. So I'm just going to go into my assessments to see if I get those assessments. Yep, right here. So based on the answer of the question, if they just select not implemented, it's gonna be a failed control and it's gonna create a issue automatically. So just for example, we just did this. We go back here and see. I just did one not implemented, so it should create a issue and say that control is not compliant.
Hey, Amit, just a quick note here. So for the content that you get from the app stores, the questionnaires are populated for you. In most cases, when I mentioned about how a manual process can be prone to errors, in this case here, when these questionnaires are generated, you have the ability to modify these questionnaires before they go out to the stakeholders to provide them, a better, stricter guidelines in terms of exactly what type of evidence you're looking for. In some cases, maybe, you might want to include a link of the evidence are expected, right? So then click on that link. Oh yeah, okay, all right. These are the list of assets that need to be included in my evidence collections that I'm going to submit, and these are the type of evidence that I need to provide. So the questionnaires itself can be very flexible to cater to each of the organizations and how they do things. So and that really, as it goes by year after year, those questionnaires are improved and provides a continuous improvement in consistency to make sure that the right type of data and the right type of evidence are captured and provided to the auditor.
So I think we are out of time. We are at 5 minutes. So if it's okay, unfortunately, we would love to show our vendor accelerator, but we want to be respectful of time. And we're happy to take it offline. We have a few questions we can answer, and I can share the last of this couple of slides that we have. But I think, in the interest of time, it may be just helpful to answer questions. Our accelerators are available on the store for free. You can download them. We are happy to help you. I want to close this with this slide where, we as a company, Securitybricks, we have put out these accelerators for free. We have the FedRAMP accelerator. We have the 2 CMMC accelerators. We have a number of our contractors already downloaded using it, but we also have helped them extend it. As a C3PAO, we can do a mock audit to tell you if your controls pass or not. We have some inherited controls. We have a lot of things that we can help you reduce or further automate. This things of indicated templates Ben spoke about. So we kind of can extend our solution. So if it's at this point, I think if we have a couple of questions, we'll try to answer. I think I saw one of the questions that talked about, what are the 320? So we as an assessor have to, although there are 110 controls, we look at 320 assessment objectives. So the 801.7a, right? So what what we looked at here is if we were going to go through an assessment, typically, how would we do it? And so that's the answer to that question. Are there any other questions that are there so we can help answer?
There are a couple questions. So what is the best way to link my existing indicators to CMMC controls?
Now, it depends if those indicators are, again, are they collecting data that are required for CMMC control? Yes, you can, and then you need to modify them so that they can validate those. Because typically, indicator templates are written for a certain evidence, like if you want to monitor, or so if you take a control, if you know what is it that you want that indicator to monitor and or collect evidence, you'll need to map that. So if you have an existing, if you have an existing indicator template for, say, CIS configuration, right? And you're using those to do your configuration checks. If it so happens that you can map it to a 800.171 control for CMMC, you can see if it can be used. Again, it just depends on what that indicator is, the intent of the indicator that was built, and if it can be mapped to the requirements of that CMMC control.
Okay. Next question is, does the system provide auto recommendations when non-compliance is selected?
It does not. It will tell you. I think in our free one, we have just told you what are the required or suggested, and or what's the evidence requirement. Not in the, if we do have, we can help you build those, but it's not out of the box in our accelerator. We have that information, but it's not in the free accelerator.
Okay. I'll ask the last question here. Can we download the accelerator on our own, or do we need to reach out to get it downloaded?
You can download on your own.
Awesome. I really appreciate everybody's time. Wonderful presentation by all of our presenters. I appreciate your time. Thank you all for joining us. We have a lot of more webinars coming up. Have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, please reach out to Securitybricks or to ServiceNow. And thank you, Securitybricks, and thank you all attendees.
Thank you all. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.